Well, happy 4th of July, everybody. I know it's early still the 4th of July, but I thought I might get this in. Um, okay, so what are the two prides that I talk about? Well, one kind of pride is, you just say, I know I'm good, I know I'm the best, I know, I'm in the best place, and and you're basically just, you're boasting about you're boasting about what what kind of amazing person you are. The other kind is you don't let yourself fall below a certain standard. That is unthinkable or undesirable for you, and you do your absolute best to keep things up. And that those are the one kind of pride I think can lead you to not face your problems, not face your shortcomings, while the other forces you to confront the good and the bad about who and what you are. And I've had my share, to be blunt, I've had my share of, cases in which I haven't exactly lived up to my full potential. But there are many other situations where my sensibility is that I want I don't, for example, I don't like to post, facts that I haven't verified, that I haven't established are actually true. Sometimes I'm sort of okay, I pretty much know this is true, and but if I'm in doubt about what I'm, you know, a set of facts or what exactly the real events, what the real facts are, I'll go and find out because, for one thing, it strengthens my, you know, for one thing, I can find out things that not a lot of people are familiar with about the subject, and so I can have a fresh take on it because I'm not just, you know, repeating what one side said or contradicting what one side said. And that's one thing that I think people ought to recognize is that part of the point of research isn't simply to it isn't simply to learn find ammunition to use against the other side, although it can be useful in that regard. No, one of the key things is to learn things for their own sake, and yes, be able to use them in a debate, but also be able to use them to understand yourself what is right and wrong, what is true and untrue, to be able to use your own logic, your own reason to come to your own conclusions, to provide an even better argument for what you believe in than just what you than just this or that. I mean, that's one reason why in many cases I went directly to places like, sites like the Bureau of Labor Statistics in order to find, okay, how much percentage proportion of the job recovery can we attribute to Biden or attribute to Obama or attribute to whoever versus how much Trump did? How much did he reduce unemployment versus how much did Obama reduce unemployment? So that I'm not just simply saying one thing or another, but I'm actually, I'm actually providing fresh insight. I'm actually also kind of treading fresh paths in people's minds because I'm not simply repeating one side or the other's talking point, but I am saying something that's pretty much original to myself and giving people something that is better than just, you know, what I believe to be the best information or whatever. But it also reflects my attitude about patriotism, and that is that you can wave your flag until your arm falls off. You can sing the national anthem. "Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light?" You can recite, you know, you can recite all you know, all the songs on all the whatever you want to. But if at the end of the day, you're not looking out for your country's genuine best interests, if at the end of the day, you are willing to risk, for example, national security for the sake of keeping Trump in office, that you're willing to completely reverse, completely flip on what you would have said 20 years ago in order to keep supporting your leader. Or if you're willing to let that leader go and tear up American medical and scientific research just to score a win on the liberals. If you're willing to let a guy tear up our vaccination programs and everything, if you're willing to let them kick millions of people off insurance, if you're willing to let them trample into the dirt the grass on the National Mall or put up a gaudy, unasked for triumphal arch that blocks the view from Lincoln, the Lincoln Memorial to Arlington Cemetery, which is deliberately done a certain way to honor the sacrifices of the Civil War. If you're willing to have motocross jumps and bare knuckle brawling on the White House lawn after years of telling people that you're the party of norms and traditions and all that other stuff of dignity. We're bringing dignity back to the White House. We're making, you know, things look, America look good again. No, you're not. You've done everything you can to undermine what this country looks like. And while I don't doubt that you intend to be patriotic, while I don't doubt your intentions, many of you, at least your biggest, most basic intention, what I doubt is What I doubt is the ability of many folks on the right these days to truly stand up for traditions, for to truly stand up for what is best in this country, to love what is best in this country. I mean, here's the thing. When I was a kid, yes, there was more love for Christopher Columbus, to be sure, and there was less appreciation of, what had happened to Native Americans and so on and so forth. There was less political correctness in many ways, but also though there was no, oh, this is woke about the civil rights era. That was a point of pride that we had expanded the definition of equality, that we had expanded that we had given more freedoms, more the vote and everything to women and minorities, expanding past what American democracy and this republic used to be, improving it. That there was a sense that we had gone from a more corrupt sort of system to one that was less corrupt, that had more integrity to it, that we had gone from a less advanced scientific age to one that was more advanced. We were building upon on building up knowledge, building up scientific you know stuff, that we were going from a society that had become badly polluted, that we were improving that we were doing away with acid rain, that we were doing away with the hole in the ozone layer. It wasn't merely, oh, doom and gloom, we can't do anything about all this environmental you know damage. In fact, from those days, when people talk about trading carbon credits, the basic model for that is how they got us past, you know, acid rain. They basically sold pollution credits for the thing, and eventually, the amounts of sulfur pollution going into the atmosphere that created the acid rain that went away because there was a market incentive to do that. But now we don't even want that, it seems. Now we have Trump actively trying to promote a dirtier and less efficient fuel source for God knows what reason, to own the libs. And it's not even something the market actually wants anymore. So we're going from fuels that are, from power sources um, that people actually want, that are more, that give you all that power without having you need to buy any fuel for it. We're going from that back to dirty old coal. And if any, but the ironic thing is that we're kind of being shown why we need to get off of such fossil fuel energy sources, and it's basically because it leaves us vulnerable to the politics of regions that don't particularly like us. When people shutting down the Strait of Hormuz can compromise our nation's economy, when OPEC shutting off the tap as it did years ago, decades ago, when that can lead us to be waiting in fuel lines for hours on end. I mean, it just, what good is that for us? We want to call people smart. We want to call people brave. We want to, say that our people have all the virtues of that we are taught to say are admirable. But for some strange reason, they seem to want people to say these things exist, to give lip service to people having these virtues, but without necessarily people actually having the virtues. It's all just marketing language, you know? And I think that's a crucial distinction right there. We want, I mean, we are sort of, we start out kind of marketing ourselves. We want to say, I'm a smart kid. I'm a, I'm an athletic kid. But what happens when you can't put your skills, your virtues where your mouth is, your money where your mouth is, so to speak? What happens when you can't put up? Do you just then shut up? Folks keep on saying Trump is the greatest president ever. Is he? No. Almost no historian believes that. And really, I mean, the 4th of July celebration today, just one thing after another. He basically tried to make the celebration about himself. He basically tried to make folks stay despite the fact that temperatures were going into the hundreds, or at least felt like it. Tried to make them stay through the storms and ended up creating a panic when the storms actually rolled in. Now you got people on Threads, which is what I've used since Twitter, which is what I will always call it, since Twitter collapsed into a cesspool of hateful crap. Um, I see folks trying to sell Trump as having persevered you know, despite the weather. And I don't even have to listen to the guy's speech to know that it was probably an entire tolerable sort of circling around sort of AI slop sort of attempt to look intelligent, attempt to look like a great leader, attempt to this, attempt to that. That's just the thing. Trump is a master at the art of boasting, of self promotion, but he's incompetent. He, I mean, he botched the 250th anniversary celebration, turned it into something nobody wanted to show up for, turned it into something where his inability to properly lead was highlighted. That's the thing. He sold himself on being the guy to make America great again, which sounds patriotic, but it's like no politician is going to make America great again. No politician made America great to begin with. The greatness of America has always been in its people, in you and all the other folks all around us. It's like we were never meant to be hidebound to traditions, to what the framers' interpretation of things were. The framers were believers in the Enlightenment, and the belief was of the Enlightenment was that we would learn more and better things as we went along, and that we, the people, should be able to improve our government by those means. They, in fact, created provisions within the Constitution in order to improve things. In fact, the Constitution itself. Well, I mean, when you look at what we regard as the birth date of our nation, the Declaration of Independence, the signing of the Declaration of Independence, July 4th, 1776. That, you know, 12 years goes by from that date. 12 years. 12 years until we get the Constitution, and then and only then do we get the new government that we're all familiar with. The president, the Supreme Court, Congress as we know it, those only came about on a second attempt to write the charter of this nation. The Constitution was a second try. It was the framers taking what they had learned before and improving on it, learning their lessons, having a pride in how we did things as opposed to a pride, you know, in a certain aura, a certain pride as a marketing tool. They weren't afraid to admit that they had set some policies wrong, that those policies weren't working. They weren't afraid to admit that. And, you know, not being afraid to admit that, they created some significant improvements. In fact, while they were negotiating the ratification of the Constitution, they struck a compromise that got them to include the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights, which it turns out has been fundamental to our, you know, the rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in this country. We are the nation that we are today, proud of the freedoms of speech, of press, of whatever, proud of due process and all that other stuff, because the framers didn't just simply say, we're the best country in the world. Our revolution is a great revolution, and we shall punish those who criticize it or dissent to it or whatever. No, they figured out how to make it work better. And instead of being one of these countries where eventually everything falls into this sort of, you know, this kind of monarchy or backslides, becomes part of the colony again, and so on and so forth. Instead of doing that, our country decided that it was going to do things better, that it was going to aspire to something better. And that's, look, our country's history is not a history. You know, we're not simply. I mean, people like to play America as the bad guys, and that's not always untrue. We're not always doing good things. We're not always living up to our ideals. But I'd like to think that our country is one that improves over time. That's one that where because we can be truthful and honest between each other about what's going wrong, what's going right, we are better able to create a society that does right. And also a recognition that it's not simply a matter of that it's not simply marketing. That it's not simply you have to say only good things about the president, only good things about the republic. No, we can criticize the republic when it goes wrong. And we can improve it because we are able to recognize and get others to recognize when it's fallen short. America needs to restore its sense. It needs to restore its sense of pride in what it does. It needs to restore its sense of pride in how we behave. That we're not merely a chaotic, you know, nation of people who don't want to follow any rules. That we are a nation of people who decide between each other what the rules will be and live by it of our own free will more than just because of some law saying that if we don't do so, somebody's going to come along, put us in a burlap sack, and take us off to be tortured. So, that is my essential argument. The Trump administration fails as often as it does because it's about the marketing. It uses patriotism and other things like that as sort of new and improved, as sort of part of an advertising campaign to get you to buy their brand of United States. But the truth of it is, these guys can screw up a one car parade. And it's because they are indifferent to both the signs of things going wrong and the people who will come along to tell them things are going wrong. They don't want to be told that their judgment is imperfect. They want to pretend like it will do well forever. Well, so for the rest of this year, I challenge you, if you're a Republican, if you're a MAGA, what I challenge you to do is to think about your pride in this country. Think about it in larger terms than just a party or a president. Think about it in terms of how your nation is going to be seen and how it's going to be known for the next 50 years, for the next 250 years. What will be America's reputation? I want America to do things that improve our reputation. I want America to be a technological innovator. I want America to be a nation other nations look to for and moral leadership, for international leadership. I want America to do what only America can do well. I want America to do great things instead of being told that America is the great thing. Well, America can be great, but its greatness is in us. And it's in what the American people are free to be able to do, free to be able to think, in how we're not bound to some ancient restrictions, but can do our own thinking, our own believing, and live with that. So, it's getting late. Have a good year, America. Do your best. Don't just sell your country. Be what makes people proud of this country.